Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to tonight's episode. Okay, so I want to speak about, first of all, the title. When I say fear not the world you're in once, I am not saying that we're in this world once. I'm saying that we're in the world of this sense of self once. And this is not even in a metaphysical sense, this is in a very physical sense, that every day happens once. I'm not kidding, like every day happens once, unless somebody has a time machine up their sleeve, the day happens once. And so honestly, this is the biggest reason I feel inspired to give these talks, because it's as if every moment, I should say it this way, every day there is an energy. And this energy can either repeat in patterns that it has previously been familiar to, or it could do something new. So when the person realizes every day happens once, every moment happens once, and when I say happens once, in regards to time, to a creature with identity. If you're a person who's non-dual listening to me now, don't worry, you can't be a person and non-dual, so there's no problems. In the subtitle, which in the description can be found, I've written, may the greatness of all moments activate. I feel that the resolution to living in the world fearlessly comes to the greatness, to the activation of some greatness. And this concept of greatness, there's two types, I would say. There's a greatness that is comparable to the past. And then there's a greatness comparable to the future. When I look at, for example, Edison, to me, he is the greatness of the past. But to himself, in the moment where he was landing that invention from his inner realms into the outer realms, as if when someone, I would say it this way. There are two worlds we're in, a subjective realm and an objective realm. Now, in order for something to travel from where it began as a subject, pretty much subjects are becoming objects and objects are becoming subjects. And in order for this to happen, there requires consciousness. That means it's as if when there's no one in the elevator can't go anywhere. There is a greatness inspired by a comparison to achieve beyond the past. There is a greatness that is comparing itself to a potential that can be in the future. What that means is, it's as if, imagine Edison building the light bulb, someone seeing that, and someone building the next thing that came after. I would say it's as if Edison looking at a candle and wondering if there's ever going to be a human being who's going to make something else other than the candle. You see, my awareness to where the value in life is found is that we require to move as an object, so being an object in this world can't be avoided while you're it. That means suffering as an object can be avoided, but being an object, it cannot, and it's really not something to even touch. I mean, for me, my biological existence, just all biology, it's as if it's like the museum of nature, and awareness is like walking in this museum. It's not here to touch it, but it's here to see it. I wish I could go back in time and just shout at myself, every day happens once. Because I hadn't realized that. Because it felt like a very long life to live. The value in every moment becomes dismissed. You know, it's like, even, I'll tell you this, I'll give you an example from my own life. Like, it's been some time I've been busy with these talks, and it's just very clear to me that anything that a person's attention goes, it occupies other potentials of lives that could be had. It's like when a person orders a certain meal in a restaurant, kind of like Schrodinger's cat, before they could order, they could have had anything in the restaurant. But once they order, it is as if it's limited, you know? It's only one meal. Everything that we consider is happening to us is a verb. And what the moment is happening to is the noun. You know, it's as if verbs and nouns, we're speaking about them in the same sentence, but they're two different states of being. A noun is like its own universe. Like when you see the word, for example, apple, it's as if anybody who sees the word apple, those letters, it's as if it's its own universe. Everybody instantly enters that symbol's meaning. But that the word apple cannot change, or it would be something else. Let's say if we started calling apples oranges, and oranges apples, then it would be as if apple, that universe changed. The box containing that concept changed. I feel that uh, really to see the greatness of every moment, that is the best response to being temporary. There was this show, this Japanese show, where there was a commander in this show named Commander Erwin. And Commander Erwin, there's this situation where a soldier's freaking out and they're all going to die in the show. And the soldier looks at the commander and says, is life meaningless? And the commander says something in the lines of like, this world is cruel. This world is cruel, but we retaliate against the cruelness and meaninglessness of this existence by consciously living. That means as if a creature has opened its eyes in this world and it's like, no way, I was just born to die. You know? We are born to watch. It's as if we enter the world to watch ourselves exited. And we can say we exit the world to be able to watch it again. That means what are the options? There's three options in the realm. Either immortality, either transcendence, or voidhood. Three options. Three options for phenomena. And of course, guys, keep in mind, these podcast episodes are also they're also where I'm kind of piloting through the storms of the brain as well. Immortality is a photo in the void. or it's a painting on a wall. Transcendence is an endlessly changing film. And the voidhood, this is when humorously the DVD comes out of the DVD player, you know. And some people are like, you know, what's a DVD, Mr. Within? And, you know, you need a time machine to figure it out. I feel all language can be reverse engineered into an image, into a known image. And all images, all observable phenomena will come down to the unobservable unknown. I don't know how many human beings have cared for the unknown, how many human beings have really wondered about what is going on here. And when I say what is going on here, that's the mystery. What is here? We are either the space, if our intelligence is alive through space, we are, call it eternal, call it transcendent, call it never in the world, call it unborn, call it free. If intelligence is realized through space, some human beings go this path. Then intelligence can be identified or understood reflectively through what is in the space, and what is in the space first is the singular. That means really it's like zero, right? So we're zero even though it has no value. Isn't it strange that that number exists? It's a number that has no value, yet it is a number. So we can have numbers without value. This goes to prove how hollow numbers are. But it's important to just treat it as space. That means right now, I don't know, I don't know how to say it, but so much of my trust in my communication is not per se in what I'm gonna say. That has to do with my inner realm's eyes. But what it has to do with the trust I feel within my inner and outer space in sync. So, for example, a soccer player about to do a bicycle kick, there's like a trust of the unknown in that moment. So we understand our intelligence through space. We call that zero. We understand our intelligence through individual phenomena, whether it's through an individual self, whether it's through an individual universe, whether it's through an individual, whether it's just through just one moment. So we find the number one here. Then what happens when we have 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1? Binary. It's a binary system. Duality can be generated. That means if you have space and something in it, over time, there will be dualism. So we went from intelligence understanding itself as zero intelligence understanding itself as just a singular phenomenon or event, then intelligence comprehending itself as dual. This is where chaos and order were born. Chaos and order are 1/4 of what is going on in this universal sector, I consider. And of course, I'm just one person talking. Now, beyond duality, I have called it the infinite dimension. Why haven't I said the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh? Because after you have duality, you can have infinity. Why? Because that duality endlessly copies itself in accordance to one edge. So we can say, for example, we have a center of a circle, and then we have the circle. And all the angles in between are dualisms. That means the center of a circle has 360 degrees, 360 relationships of the center with the edge, with the circumference. You know, they asked this notable psychologist by the name of Carl Jung. They asked him, what is God? What is God to you? And he gave an answer. He pretty much relayed what the ancient alchemists said. That God was a circle in which the center let me double check this, guys. I think he said the center was everything. Carl Jung, God Alchemy quote. One of those nights, guys. There we go, guys. I found the quote after what felt like an eternity. Carl Jung says, a saying of the alchemist is, God is a circle whose center is everywhere and whose circumference is nowhere. Carl Jung says the saying holds for God, for the anima mundi, and for the soul of man. So let us treat this method that Carl Jung has kept alive for us. And let's for a moment consider that we are the center, not in the outer realms, but in the inner realms. We are the center of the universe. We are the center of our intelligence. Where else can our intelligence be centered to us? This is the wisdom from really the mystic traditions that Carl Jung is pointing to. Even in my life, even when I'm giving this talk, there's first this realization that the energy to do anything is present. So I find my awareness starting from the center of the circle. And the edge of my world being the circumference. So you see, dear listeners, on this planet there has been no choice. Either we are choosing to center the known or center the unknown. Technically, the center of the circle is how the circle exists. It's as if without the center of a circle, we can't know it's a circle. I would say 1/4 of life is personhood. The other 3/4 are rare cultivations that civilization is not yet prepared for. That means right now there's no way that we as a species can consider intelligent space. That's out of the picture. We can't do that. There's no way we can consider, it's like we're even struggling. Like some percentage of the people on the planet feel it's all one, whether call it God or, you know, non-duality or whatnot. You know, that means it's like, it's kind of like, I don't know, that percentage is rocking between how many beings feel this is all one intelligence and how many beings feel they're just an intelligent part of a non-intelligent landscape. Then we have a lot of people in duality. Everybody's pretty much being born and raised as a dualistic entity. This means that your personality is residing between attention moving from chaos and order. Because if it doesn't, the person doesn't know what has changed, how they have grown. That means there's moments in my life where I'm grateful for like blessed things happening, you know? First of all, I'm grateful when I wake up for like, oh my God, another day. Like that's the that's the biggest reason to actually just the whole day being a victory, you know? It's as if at the end of the day the person's like, oh my God, I existed. I continued one more day. There's something so remarkable that it's as if we are here to only decide that nature knows. It's as if you know what it is. It's as if we are in a training camp, and we are in a human training camp to get prepared uh, for the collective extraterrestrial, a concept where we have probably not considered. You see, this notion of the terrestrial, extraterrestrial, I mean, of course, if we got advanced and we went to another planet, we'd be the aliens, you know? If they advanced and they came here, they'd be the extraterrestrials to us. We'd be the extraterrestrials also. So that extraterrestrial terrestrial thing has no meaning. Really, what it is either individual creature, individual activity, or collective activity. Individual intelligent activities going on in the moment, or collective individual activity. Now, collective individual activity cannot arise if it's only in dualism, and that's the strange thing. You know, I would say back in the day, like before the monotheistic religions. Okay, the monotheistic religions, it's very obvious that they were here to contribute to the individual dimension. What that means is it's as if religion is kind of here to show how human beings looked at the whole universal event, and pretty much it's as if people wondered, where did people come from? They're like, yeah, people come from people. And it's as if like people wondered, where does the universe come from? Oh yeah, it could come from a personality. But of course it wasn't the way I'm saying, it was more revelatory. So Sorry guys, my keyboard sounds like it's running in a battlefield. Anyways, to continue. The relationship of a self, of a center that is everything, and an edge that is nothing. So between everything and nothing, the story of our lives is taking place. And in the middle of everything and nothing, it may take some time for the person to wonder, what language do they deserve? You see, there was this guy, I'll never forget this. I heard this when I was very young, maybe like 14, 15. And it was this person, I think it was Ibn Sina, Avicenna, or I could be wrong. It could have been somebody else. But they asked this poet, sage, scholar, or whatever, they asked them, how are you polite? How are you so polite? And the person's like, I saw it from the rude. I pretty much saw what the rude people did, and I did the opposite, right? So, how would I say this? I feel every human being should wonder, before any sort of communication, what language what language their eyes deserve to move in. If people wonder about this, it would be incredible. And of course, who are we? We're just atoms judging atoms, you know. We're just we're the periodic table talking a lot, after billions of years of evolution. I look at my outer realms and I know that it's like they return. So we are like renting the periodic table karmically. It's as if the mind is the brush, the periodic table is the paint, and what is holding the brush is neither the brush, neither the paint, yet it moves them both into meaning. So I would say that it's really honestly like how the Gita, it was one Gita, I don't know which Gita, but it was this ancient book that said, it's like the yogi will at some point realize, as if like, what was it? It's as if when it's like the person visual, it's like if the person could fathom they were dead, how would they feel about the moment if they were already dead, right? But when I say already dead, I don't mean, I mean it in the sense of like that the sort of inner realm, and not an outer realm death, an inner realm shift. That's what I mean. All right, I think it's time to bring some music here. All right. In front of our eyes, we're holding on to life. Behind our eyes, we are the life. What can be said about attention that it already doesn't know as it's being attention? So, beyond duality, beyond language, beyond every story ever told, once the mirror of existence is found, the winds of evolution awaken. The human being realizes their name is not enough. Their story is not enough. All the ways that their biography, if they were the eyes of the future could be written, is not enough. And so it's as if slowly this creature that has thought it's just an object, that has somehow is mysteriously being a subject to itself, or unexplainably so far, will move beyond relationships of reality and imagination. Because I asked myself, what is reality? It's like it was something we imagined. Every word that a human being is taking as the word, as the meaning, as the concept, it is imagination. Come on, who are we kidding? It's like we're just making sounds here, and the whole symbolism is through acceptance, agreement of various systems. You know, it's hilarious. It's two situations. Either the world is an illusion and the self is truth, or the self is an illusion and the world is truth. And from the secular view, the world is truth. From the metaphysical view, or I would say even the religious lens falls into that angle, I guess. It is the self. It is literally God in individual form from the religious angle. From the polytheistic angle, for example, in Vedanta, we are in God's dream right now. Like in yoga is so cool. But in yoga, there are like 54 million years of human life. It's like 3 days of God dreaming. Who knew? But this ancient book does, you know. The soul has to do with how we're being. So any moment a person observes how they're being, it's like that's a soulful moment right there. It's like that's pretty enlightening. Now, when a person really observes the world and the inseparability of the self and the world, this is why I say enlightenment is not for a human. That means once you really reach that peak at the peak of the enlightenment mountain, you're not human. It dehumanizes you, and it's necessary, because the being sees so much more that there's no reason to move individually. So imagine we all realize we're multidimensional beings, and we're like, what are we doing just moving in one dimension? This whole time we've been multidimensional, right? So then there's a sort of alarm there, right? Because our civilization is based on individualism. So we have to, even though things are becoming more and more multidimensional, we have to maintain the individualism too, you know? For me, this was the view. I was like, how advanced could an advanced civilization really be? Then I realized it is so advanced that it was advanced from the beginning. That means it's as if the idea of an advanced civilization, it's like one of those rare ideas, fathomable, conceivable by the human being, where it's echoing from the future to the present. And so this is the cool thing, right? A person can be in the outer realms. There's no expectations really for the elemental. It's like you gotta in the outer realms calm down with the periodic table. Thanks for letting me know, guys. Yeah, I turned down the music. I feel I could kind of right now say something pretty cool. Those 4 dimensions of 0, 1, 2, infinity. This model, I call this the ring of the absent heaven. In this model, I just thought 0 is emptiness. The one dimension is love. The dualistic dimension is chaos and order. And the infinite dimension is the edge of knowledge becoming the unknowledge. It's like, what does a human being seek? Knowledge. What does a god seek? Unknowledge. Okay, I got it. Language, and then infinity. I got. Let's call it the unknown. Even though there's two unknowns, but that means an unknown from emptiness and an unknown from infinity. So, on this planet, whoever you are listening, may these four words be like just stuff you pay attention to in this life. I wanted to say some cool mystical, like the way the Buddha said it. It's like, take these three gems of wisdom, you know. But I'll say it this way. It's like, take these three words. Excuse me, not three. Take these four words. Whoever you are, just write these words on a piece of paper. Stare at that empty piece of paper with that word in it until you see what it means to you. Emptiness, love, language, unknown. Study these four things, and you'll remember how the universe is an advanced communication. That means the person in the middle of living their life as a thought realizes, wait a minute, am I naturally happening alongside everything? Could this world hold rhythms? Could it be that when a musician, for example, I saw this musician, so in like Sufi tradition, in the Sufi mystical tradition, it was such a cool tradition where they mixed dance and music, but it wasn't dance like, go on, who wants to be like, the next, Sufi. It was, it was a sort of dance where it was a mystical trance state dance. It was a dance where you started as a human, and in the middle you were not a human, and at the end you were a human. It was as if it started humanized, then the attention became dehumanized and endless. And the Sufis, they had the path of love pretty much. That means they loved their way to the truth. Some beings are super smart and they go the path of love quickly. Some beings go the path of love, but they see that there's other paths, and it's as if, imagine having OCD as a mystic. You wanna make sure everything in the inner realms is These are four forces the person should just Sorry guys, there's just too many images I want to say, and I've totally missed the train of the last rhythm. I'll say it this way maybe. To befriending these forces means that the person has to experientially, so you first start off conceptually, then it becomes experiential. It's like, just like there's a treasure map, then there's the actual treasure. The actual treasure is an experience. The treasure map is the way to it. So all language, all ideology, all systems of divination or whatnot, these are just ways, these are just maps. but they're not maps to just the outer realm. They're maps to the inner realm as well. And we have so many human beings and modern human beings, even way before I was born, who started mapping the unconscious, who even cared to wonder about, okay, what is it that the species is not seeing? You see, to care for the blind spot of the species automatically takes your identity towards the universal, right? So because people are focused on their personal problems, their identities are so localized, right? But if people started to try to solve the problems of a collective system, do you know how quickly people would become universal? You know what that would mean? That means the person's just like, hey man, I'm just trying to get by and get to the next day. Helping the world. But imagine there was an alien civilization attacking us, and you had no choice. You had no choice but to serve your civilization against interstellar species war. So in that point, in that moment, in that circumstance, the person would suddenly attempt to tackle a global or universal level problem, right? And I'm telling you, those people who dare, because right now, fashion is more important than clarity. We have blindfolded ourselves with beauty in today's society, but it's such a hollow beauty that it has no kindness. And that's the tragedy, that's the tragedy of what the world has become. It has mutated towards an anarchist equality, which means everything, by becoming everything being equal, and I'm not talking about rights or privileges, I'm talking about just that it's like nobody, it's as if everybody deserves everything before they've earned it, then there is nothing to work for. The more there is a sort of global equality in regards to, here's the thing, in my inner realms, I'm speaking as if I'm seeing a civilization where individual discrimination is eradicated. The species, suddenly it clicked for it. Oh my God, the bees are making a beehive, right? But human beings are not building an advanced civilization. What's up with that? Right? The bees don't have any knowledge, any belief system, any ideology, any negotiation. The bees are just like, yeah, we're designed for this, right? And so, this is the best way to counter fear. If the person doesn't have the strength, let's say there's something the person is, there's an obstacle. I would say, you fear not the temporary, because it is just an opportunity to see what the eternal could be. It's as if, like, check this out. The scientific method encourages us to experiment. Now, if we want to experiment with something that is not an object, what method can we have? How do we experiment a non-objective truth? How do we find evidence for it? It's as if they asked the astrophysicists, so, what about certain recent explorations? And the person was like, let's say the astrophysicists were like, we have to say that it's like there's some things that are in the unobservable universe and we can't answer. And suddenly, the person's like, wait a minute, what is the unobservable? And the astrophysicist starts getting a sweaty forehead. It's like, oh my God, this person's asking me about the unobservable. What can I say? And the person says the unobservable seems to be where the roots of what we know go. But then the person says, what do you mean by the roots? And eventually the astrophysicist is like, buddy, we don't know, okay? It's like what truth do you want to hear? It's like either have the courage and audacity to truly see how unknown the moment is and keep the unknown as the unknown, or endlessly fill up the vacuum of the expectation of the desire with a solid sensory belief. Let's say there was a child in legend back in the day, and let's say this is a lost legend, so nobody knows if it's a legend or not. It's a lost legend. A child suddenly, this very wise child, just this human being that was born, this wise child, suddenly gets an audience with the divine. And at a very young age, this child says, God, can you hear me? That means before making a prayer, this child is checking. Imagine. And suddenly imagine the voice of God comes and says, the voice comes from the sky in the story and says to the child, yeah, I can hear you. Nobody's ever checked like that. And so, what happens? Right? The child says, God, I have a question now that you're here. And God's like, all right, spit it out. And the child looks at God, the wise child, and he says, why did you do this? And there is where the sincerity of creation has nothing else to do than of course, keep in mind, I brought the topic to a religious angle here. but I'm saying, like, from the either we animate the intelligence, and the only way we can is through the personalized dimension of the human being. That means it's like we can even see it as just very evident from even how people treat animals. There are pet owners that they treat the animal as if it's like, their family member. It's part of the family. That it's like they see the emotions, they see the heartbeat of the animal. They see the soul of that creature, right? But then there's some parts of the world where they don't even, animals are like objects to them. It's scary. It's honestly scary how it's like there's such a comfort, with animal cruelty. And technically, human violence is animal cruelty too. It's just more evolved animal cruelty. Truth has pushed and pulled the sight of our species for too long. The answer that God gives to that wise child in the story is, again, if I can say, the same reason you ask this, in the same way you ask the question. No explanation. That is the rarest finding we can have on truth. The non-explanatory dimension. Right? I gave this a term in my talks. I called this the language threshold. In various moments in my talks, I get close to it but I don't pass beyond it. Because if I pass beyond it, I just become a watcher of my inner realms. That means it's just I go into silence. Sometimes in the talks, many people can notice it. I mean, sometimes I mute it, but aside from that, there's moments where the inner realm just commands its own attention. The inner realm is alive. We don't realize it. Because we are alive, the world is. Because we're alive, the potential of the world is alive. So you see, divinity is not exclusive to behavioral algorithm in accordance to ideology, right? It's like we're being ushered into the moment where we can see different angles to objects, and like a person can move around an object. Now people need to get acquainted to moving around like parkour style in a subjective landscape. That means it's as if, like, even when I give these talks, you know, because I know that right now, the more, it's just pretty much common sense, the more people are living harder lives, the more in extreme their resolutions they want to be. The more extreme their resolutions are desired to be. So you see, the more a person suffers, the more quickly they want to get out of it. It's like, you know, it's like a jacuzzi temperature rising, and the person's like, okay, this is too much. Like, what is this? This is not like for human use, you know. Language breaks down beyond the language threshold. That means you come to a domain where you have an experience that hasn't been, there's no concept for it yet. Think of it this way, it's the uncharted territory of the inner realms. Now, here's some interesting ideas, like there is a possibility at the edge of everybody's inner realms, we are all in the same moment of being. We're all one moment of projection. It could be that every person's inner realm is separate, but they also have an inner realm that is collectively being. That means the inner realm is where the unconditional is allowed. So it's as if not only can there be one God, there could be endless gods. Not only there could be no God, there could be even beyond God, you know. So guys, I wrote something, maybe this is worth sharing. I was typing something in the chat section. And guys, if you hear a cough in this talk, I'm pretty sure that's not from me. It's like just unhear it, please. Unhear it. Okay, anyways. So I've written, you haven't made silence your ally. That is why your mind is bewildered. You have understood that you have, oh my God, that's a typo. It's you haven't understood the depth and immense healing power of the silent watchers. The moment you realize all you require to do is accept who you are simply, all the complex, all the complex, oh my God. The moment you realize all you require to do is accept who you are simply, and all the complex storms of suffering fade. When you realize there was nothing wrong with you, you don't suffer the artificial. Anyways, guys, I tried engaging the chat section. We'll go back to the talk, right? The whole idea is the desires for personal perfection need to become have led to an imperfect collective. You see, it's our behavior. The world can change in an instant if people change in an instant, but can they? Can we? Shall we? You see, it's as if like this life is like we can even get the clue from the lioness. That the hunting lioness roars. And what does that mean? That means the creature expresses what it is designed for. And so the human being is designed for a multidimensional expression. I'm telling you, it's like we're no normal animal. You know, it's like I don't see penguins starting nightclubs, you know. From the romance of the personal heaven, we must have, okay, anyways, I'll go with it. we must, you know, we must have the decency to walk into our greater evolution regardless of what it takes. That means in this life, a desire from one moment doesn't make sense. That means the person may wake up one day and be like, I want to be, I have this sense of expectation of the future. Tomorrow, they're going to wake up as a totally refreshed browser of life, you know? Right now, the greatest thing that the species can do, if it was like chess moves, just think about it. Because it's empty, because there's nobody there, we have to literally act like we're on a galactic island and we're calling out for help. Literally like the movie Castaway, but instead it's a species, it's an advanced species cast away in a realm where communication has been lost. I mean, I'm glad we still have communication in our outer realms. Our ancestors did well to preserve it, right? But the communication of the inner realms has been lost. Do you know how many technologies, do you know how many great stories that did not make it out alive through history, you know? so many things change that every philosopher, true philosopher, deep down knows. Fate decides how the world hears, how they feel what they said is. Because honestly, it's like we're just advanced beings waiting on an island. And the more crowded it gets, unless we build sky cities or go live in our, I don't know, like that Elysium movie, or even Star Wars, that giant sphere was a city, right? The imagination is a clue that consciousness may be a revolving door. And I'm telling you, train in the, while you're a human, train multidimensionally. This means the wonder about multiple dimensions of life. There's this yogi named Sadhguru. He said a fulfilled life is a life where you're living all the dimensions fully, something like that, he said. Sadhguru also said, if you're alone with yourself and you're bored, you're in bad company. That means the person should be so fascinated with themselves, but not in a way where they are trying to grab into an image or show an image. I had once a cousin of mine show off his you know, his ride and his villa, you know, to me when I was, this is years ago, and I remember I'm like, buddy, don't you realize like how minimalistically Buddhist I live, bro? And I'll tell you, on some level, every human being is expressing in front of themselves. We are performers in front of ourselves. And honestly, this is why when somebody's interrupted, the person has to begin again. Why? Because it's a performance in front of themselves. They gotta feel something after it too. Now, if the person values the world more, they become selfless, you know? I mean, you can totally think of like, what is the most advanced like a relationship on the planet? For example, mothers and their children, right? Mothers have been known to be stronger than Hulk when their child was in danger, you know? So just imagine a mother taking care of her child in an intense situation, right? So that mother is selfless, right? The mother is not thinking about herself, she's thinking about her child. So the mother has totally forgotten about herself when the child's self is in the room, you know? In that intense, let's say it's an emergency or whatever. You see, selfless out of a deep care for the continuity of the child. It's the relationship of the world, Gaia, the mother of the human species, the planet, and its creation. And the mother is selfless, as if the planet it doesn't have a self, but it's endlessly giving. The great challenge ahead for advanced communicators and pilots to come to land in the future. Aside from the effort of building an advanced airport, journeys have to be made. And so the glory of life comes in how, see, there's two levels of like pride, right? One level of pride right now is missing in society. And I'll tell you what it is. There's the level of pride where it's the pride of your identity. Yeah, I'm this person from this part of the world with this color and this flag and this da-da-da, you know? So it's as if there's that sense, right? Then there is the I am allhood of it all. The day energy realizes it is unknown is the day or the era where the eternal were in the room before the temporary. That means right now we're a temporary creature psychology of a civilization 1.0. I would say in the future, I've shared a model of my own called civilization 2.0. But I'll tell you that in it, what can I say? We should enjoy while it's like enjoy your humanhood while you are human. It could be the case in the future we're not human. This is why I'm telling you, it's like people should realize it's the most divine turnaround. They say, what does a monk do? They say this in Zen. What does a monk do before enlightenment? Chop wood, carry water. And I don't know if the monk chops wood with an axe or just like hits it with the corner of his hand, you know. But anyways, the monk chops wood and carries water before enlightenment. After enlightenment, chops wood, carries water. Why? Because it had nothing to do with what was being seen being wrong. Who was identifying with the scene, SCENE, was wrong. That means the most incredible moment is when the being realizes they don't know who they are. And that's the moment where you become the ultimate fool. And this is also the moment you become the ultimate genius. Think of it this way. In your inner realms, imagine your inner realms were very fast, okay? Now imagine your inner realms were living ahead. That means, let's say in your inner realms, you had already lived like 3 moments ahead, imagine. So now, in your inner realms, imagine you lived 3 moments ahead as a fool. And before you even moved, you saw the reverse potential of your own foolishness. You see, this is the remarkable thing. thinking is self-dialogue, but it's just not vocalized. That means thinking and speaking are the same. They're the same. It's just when we speak, the sound accompanies the thought stream. That inner film. And the world is really caught in language now, guys. I'm not joking. We're in a linguistic simulation, right? I mean, what else can I say? Every day I have to come up and I'll be like, okay, we're still in the language phase, you know? If we were sheep, we're eating language right now. We're grazing on language. It's like, yeah, this is enough. You know, our beliefs and disbeliefs are enough. Forget about advancing things, you know? Let's just choose the banner closest to our hand and just feel like warriors. You know? It's ridiculous. You know, it's like no human being that, if a human being doesn't care for the world, you cannot be human. That's the truth of it. You don't care for, and really what it is sometimes if a person doesn't care for themselves, that may come across to others, right? Sometimes I think maybe like a lot of reason why there's violence in society is because it's not the person's violence. It's just they were a child, they were exposed to that behavior, they considered that behavior as a way of expression. What else could the child do? So it could be that there are a lot of identities in the world right now that they have seen turbulence early on in life. People who have seen turbulence early on in life, what can you do? You can either cry for all the opportunities you feel you don't deserve in the future, you know? You can cry over that, or the person can pilot. And to pilot means you don't have to choose a belief system. Who said belief is the main game? I'm here using a lot of words, but my whole philosophy is truth is beyond language. So people who are on some sense, it's a game until experience is activated with the language, right? And that's the complex thing, you know. But one thing is for certain. We're not just 8 billion bodies, we're 8 billion minds. And we may scientifically understand our bodies, but we don't know what our body is standing under when it comes to free will. That's an honest truth. Doesn't matter what piece of paper, you know, has ink on it on the wall. You know, it's like nobody knows this when it comes to this. Why? Because it reaches a point where experience is not dual and language is only dual. So we are like beings that are experiencing 4 different dimensions, but all our philosophy and again language and knowledge and all of this is just based on 1/4. And we're like, why are we suffering? Why is the world behind? Because we haven't awakened to what we want. They say life is a game, and that is true. But what they don't tell you is, they say life is a game and you're a player in it, like that's true. They don't tell you who the player is though, right? And that's where the free will comes in. Like, I don't know how people treat their intelligence, but for me, after having some experiences where I watched my being as like I watched myself as the moment. What that would mean is, imagine you're in a room, okay, and suddenly you feel you're in the room. Now imagine you feel like you're the space in the room, and your body is in you, in your being. That means it's like suddenly and throughout the day, whatever you're doing, realizing how everything is being also, you know. And guys, because I want to save some of my momentum for the Discord, I'm just going to read an essay I wrote, and then go on Discord for Q&A or discussion. Oh, poem of the moment, find me. Okay, here. This poem is from this unpublished poetry work called Starlight Sanctuaries. There's like a lot of poems in it. I wrote this in 2015. The poem is called The Butterfly in the Caterpillar. And I'll just read this as the last poem for tonight. Are dreams areas of inquiry? How does the hidden gate in man's mind open mankind? Live well through all times. We live in words that turn our worlds. The free were never born. An unborn celebration behind the eyes. Forget about the moving yellow snake. Remember your essence beyond form. Shaken by the mist that reminded the walker of the sacredness of the ground. Humanity is a garden of walking seeds. For the caterpillar's dream is the butterfly's reality. Live through the self. All are alive. Alright, I'm going to read one more. Okay, this one's called Shape of Madness. Shapes of Madness. What finds you when you cannot? Love is a transparent mirror. Who finds validation with the invalid? Where is the hidden entrance? All paths lead to the one and only. There is a magnanimous magnitude within all beings that is immeasurable. The world rotates in many ways, but the only secret is the one we keep from the world that has set you free. The cosmos doesn't have secrets, for all revelation has led to this moment's view. The cosmos doesn't, Love gives itself a corridor of options, but will such feet ever get tired? Love blooms and many wisdom traditions have kept reality lit. Fascination is beyond games. Weaves within weaves, observe the shapes of madness through every cosmic thread. Yeah, this is a good point to end off. So, thank you for listening, whoever's listened so far. For those interested in supporting the podcast, there's a Patreon link somewhere. And And for those interested in further philosophical discussion, the School of Athens traditionally was this place where philosophers from around the world would come and discuss. Like they would have next level conversations. And back in the day, there was no movie theaters. Pretty much people would just come and just like hear, I don't know, Plato and Diogenes fight over something, you know. Like when philosophers fight, they bring the whole universe in. It's as if the universe is behind their eyes are fighting, you know. And it's remarkable to watch, really. And even some philosophers respond to philosophers even though the philosopher was long gone, you know. For example, Hegel had responded to Descartes, like the ultimate conclusion Descartes had made was just like a small part of the picture. The shapes of madness are the endless ways the move can move to the endless senses of self that can be kept as a lens in front of this camera. Really what it is existence is a direct experiential relationship, so nobody needs a belief to know they exist. Like everybody listening to me right now, just look at your existence, look at how you're existing. Do you need to believe something to exist? No. You know, do you need to disbelieve something to exist? No. It's just existence is direct. What we have with language is an indirect addition over the direct existence that is silent. So from silent direct experience, experience of existence to a sound-based indirect experience of truth's potential. That means imagination, when it comes to the past, based on how horrific the past is, it could be, I mean, here, I'll say it this way. The greatest martial artists, or those beings who suddenly, like a group of people, like imagine, I don't know, in martial art movies, like the guy's like a gardener with a stick, but like 12 people come to attack the temple or whatever, and he just for a moment, the gardener is like, what would I, how would I say this to you? It's as if like the gardener, it's as if there's some warriors where in their inner realms, they're in a peaceful heaven. They're like, I shouldn't say heaven, they're in a peaceful, they're like walking in a garden, but in their outer realms, it's like a battlefield, it's an intensity. You know? They keep their inner realms simple, and then they allow their outer realms to be complex. If I wanted to make my inner realms to myself complex, it would be like suddenly the person becomes automatically emotional. So there is that thing that if the attention is too much on the inner realms, an emotion becomes a conclusion. If it's too much on the outer realms, some sensory snapshot becomes a conclusion. So there is something about Buddha's emphasis on the middle ways. But so anyways, guys, thanks for listening. I hope this episode was helpful, and fear not the world that you're in every day once. Just don't fear anything in general, because fear is, what is it? It's information that we haven't looked at yet, right? So when a person can treat it as, it's like, let's say even if there's a fear, like the worst, it's like the edge of, how do I say it? It's as if the person will at some point decide on what they feel they deserve. And if the person deserves to experience a moment of fear, that's you can say that's choice, right? Because fear, courage is not like per se just the action, it's the ability to stand through the overwhelmment. find the freedom that was here before you were. And then fear becomes no longer in the driver's seat. There's something more important than fear. That means what it's like, if the person just makes the fear important, the fear is important. You know, but if the person makes something else, let's say they're afraid, but they have like, they're like, the person's like, there's people waiting for me. Like, how many times do you see this in shows where the person's loved ones give the person a strength to continue? Just for them, even the person's in an intense situation, but they're like, okay, I see some sort of, you know, calm in the storm to come. I'll march that way, you know. So anyways, guys, thanks for listening, and I don't know, I'm just endlessly thanking the audience, you know. It's thank you for listening, you know. Thank you for being an unknown witness and listening to this, you know. Even though I'm saying thank you for listening, the you is not you. Anyways, guys, I'll see you on Discord. Bless.